friends, and welcome back to another What I Eat in a Day video. I hope you are doing very well. Today I'm going to share with you everything that I'm eating in a day, and I'm also just going to try and focus on making some really yummy vegan food, and perhaps it will inspire you to try some of these recipes out at home. This morning, as always, I started my day with an iced cacao, which is a cacao powder, maca powder, maple syrup blend poured over some oat milk with ice, my favorite way to start the day. And this morning for breakfast, I really feel like having one of those slow mornings where I take my time and make something really yummy. And as well as that, I'm gonna make a breakfast that I can enjoy throughout the week. So I'm gonna make a bulk batch. And my vision for this morning is some herby tofu scramble breakfast tacos. So I'm gonna make my own tortillas because I am absolutely loving learning how to make things from scratch for myself at the moment. That's a really fun journey that I am on. And as well as that, I'm gonna make a bulk amount of tofu scramble. So this should get me a few days worth of breakfast, which is really, really good. Also, it has to be said that if you don't like tofu scramble, or if you've never liked it before but you want to keep giving it a go and find the right recipe, I think that you might love this one. I have been vegan for almost 8 years and I hated tofu scramble until about 6 months ago when my boyfriend introduced me to the way that he makes it. It is super packed full of flavor, and the secret to it is allowing it to cook for a decent amount of time and really soak up all of the flavor. Lately, I've also been loving adding in some dried herbs just for something different. So let's get into making this delicious herby tofu scramble, as well as some homemade tortillas. Wow. This is going to be a really, really nice way to start the day. So to make my tofu scramble, I start by putting some vegan butter into a frying pan and allowing it to melt before adding in a block of tofu and crumbling that in. Then I add in some oat milk and mix this together before adding in some nutritional yeast, as well as some veggie stock powder, some vegan beef stock powder, garlic powder, onion powder, and then I also added in some dried dill as well as some dried parsley. I also then added in some Dijon mustard as well as a little bit of turmeric. I then mixed this all together until it was nice and well combined, and here is the process where you just want to leave it to sit and soak up all of that flavor, stirring it every few minutes. You want to leave it for about half an hour. Whilst this was happening, I made my tortillas, so I just used some bread flour as well as some salt. I ensured to check on my tofu scramble throughout, of course. Then I added in some water as well as some olive oil, and then I started mixing this. So when I'm making tortillas, I always start by mixing it with a spatula, but then I end up using my hands just to ensure everything gets as well combined as possible. Then I flour a surface, so I just use my chopping board, and I knead this tortilla dough 10 times over to make sure it's nice and smooth. I cut it into 10 to 12 pieces, and then I roll out these tortillas with a rolling pin before placing them into a dry pan. So you don't need to add any oil or butter or anything like that to fry these up. You can just toast them, making sure they get those brown spots on either side to ensure that they are nice and well cooked. And then when it came to plating, I put 2 of the tortillas onto a plate with some vegan mayo on top. Then I also added on some fresh greens as well as my herby tofu scramble, some avocado and some red onion, and then I also topped it with some coriander. These are a super delicious fresh breakfast. I always feel so good and so nourished after having something like this to start the day. So for lunch today, I'm going to make a nourish bowl with some crispy tofu and some satay sauce. I'm actually going to make the crispy tofu in my new air fryer. I know a lot of you have been telling me for so long how much I would love an air fryer, and confirming that I love my air fryer. I am using it so much. It is just so convenient and so great, especially if I'm just making like a quick dinner late at night or anything like that. I love it very much. I also just want to say a quick thank you to my friends at Squarespace who have very kindly sponsored this video. As you may know, I made my website, which is amandadux.com, using Squarespace, and I have a whole heap of vegan recipes over on that website. If you are ever looking for some inspiration on what to cook, definitely definitely head over to the recipe section on my website. I started using Squarespace almost 3 years ago now, and I have never looked back. It is such an easy and user-friendly platform to use to be able to host and design your own website. Even people like me with no web design experience at all can create something that looks pretty cute. If you're someone like me who wants to share blog posts, or perhaps you're someone who wants to sell products or just have a platform to have everything about your business in one place, Squarespace is definitely the place to do so. You can head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and then when you're ready to launch, you can go to squarespace.com/AmandaDux and use my code AmandaDux, and that gets you 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. All right, let me show you what we're working with to get our lunch going. Okay, so I've put some brown rice on to cook in my rice cooker. That is simmering away. Over here I have the air fryer that I was talking about that is in my life now. I'm also in the reflection back there. Hi. And yeah, I'm gonna cook my tofu in here. I've also prepped some carrot with the julienne peeler and chopped up some red capsicum. And then I have some tofu that I'm going to cut up into cubes and then try and crumb in some way in like a really yummy coating, and then chuck it in the air fryer. So to make this crispy tofu, I first of all started by cutting half a block of tofu into small cubes. Then I am transferring these into a bowl that has some milk and flour mixture, and then into another bowl that is a breadcrumb mixture with some onion and garlic through it. Then I am transferring these into my air fryer and frying them up for about 15 to 20 minutes. You can also add oil here if you would like to. Then to make my sauce, I put some peanut butter, soy sauce, lemon juice, maple syrup, onion powder and garlic powder, as well as a little bit of water into a jar, and then I mix this together until it's nice and smooth and gets this pourable consistency. When it came to serving, I put some brown rice into a bowl, added in some fresh greens, of course, as well as my carrot and my capsicum that I had prepared earlier. Then I topped it with my crispy tofu, as well as this delicious peanut butter sauce, which is just so good, and then some coriander on top. Once again, this is a really nourishing and delicious meal that's super hearty, but also has a freshness to it that makes it really enjoyable to eat in the warmer months. I love it so very much. So recently I have been thinking about something and talking about this with some of my friends, and I wanted to ask you what it is like in whatever city you live in or country you live in, the popularity of veganism. Because when I moved to the Gold Coast about 5 years ago, literally like probably exactly 5 years ago, veganism was very popular, and especially very popular in this city. There was a lot of vegan restaurants and cafes and a lot of vegan community events and stuff on. And whilst those things do still exist, I feel like it's decreasing in numbers. Like when I think about the amount of vegan restaurants to go out to eat at, there seems to be a lot less. A lot of vegan businesses are closing, which could have a lot to do with the cost of living and things like that as well. But overall, I feel as though veganism isn't as popular as it once was, at least in the city that I'm in. And so I'm feeling really curious because, like I said, I can't tell if this is like a cost of living thing, if it's just like the city that I'm living in that perhaps feels like it's become less vegan friendly or anything like that, or perhaps I just don't have as many vegan people in my close circle as I once did. But I would really love to hear from you in the comments, or if you want to DM me on Instagram. I would love to hear about the city you live in and how veganism is received. Is it more popular? Is it growing in popularity, decreasing in popularity? Are there lots of vegan restaurants and cafes and things like that? I would definitely love to know. With all that being said, the Gold Coast is a vegan friendly city, and there are a number of fully vegan restaurants and cafes here, and as well as that, most places have vegan options. Now that I'm saying that, I'm like, it doesn't sound like a bad thing, which it's not a bad thing. It's just I've noticed a significant decrease in popularity of the vegan diet in this area. And I'm curious as to what is making that happen, and if it's something that's happening on a global scale. This is like my little research project. But yeah, it has really sucked to see vegan businesses closing, to be honest. And I have been feeling a little bit down about like the way that veganism is perceived now. Like, I don't know, I just had this feeling like a few years ago it was more accepted than it is now. But anyway, we'll find out when you let me know if this is just something that's affecting me or if it's something everywhere. Anyway, I'll catch up with you when it is time for dinner. So we are having our friends over for dinner tonight and I am very excited. We have a really good vision for what we're going to make, and honestly, cooking for my friends and having them over for a really nice meal is one of my favorite things to do. So tonight we are going to make a creamy lasagna with a white sauce instead of a tomato sauce, and there are a few different elements that are going into this. So I'm going to make a vegan bechamel sauce as well as another creamy cashew based sauce, and in that I'm going to put some pumpkin and broccoli and lentils through as well. And then to serve with that, I'm once again going to use my air fryer because I'm obsessed with it, and I'm going to make some roasted rosemary potatoes to have on the side, and also just make like a simple green salad to have with it as well. I'm really excited. I'm so stoked to get into cooking this, and as well as that, I have a really nice relaxing arvo ahead of me with preparing all of this, which, as you know, I love the process of just like cooking and listening to music and preparing some really, really yummy food. So let's get into it. It's going to be a very yummy dinner. So I am starting by cutting up my broccoli. I'm cutting it into florets and then halving them. And then I am also cutting up my pumpkin, cutting the skin off, and then into cubes, which makes it nice and easy to cook. I place these into a bowl with some oil as well as some spices before putting them in the oven to roast for about 30 to 40 minutes. I also placed some cashews into some boiling water to soften them at this point before I started preparing my crispy potatoes. So I peeled my potatoes and then cut them into nice cube-sized pieces, placed them in with some oil and spices and herbs, and tossed these all together before putting them into my air fryer. Now into a pan, I'm putting some vegan butter as well as some soy milk and some nutritional yeast and veggie stock and some flour. This is going to make my vegan bechamel sauce, and I'm just going to leave this to slow cook until it gets that little bit thicker. I'm also cutting up some onion as well as some garlic. I am then blending my cashews with some water, nutritional yeast, salt and some pepper to make a cashew cream base kind of level sauce. So into a frying pan, I'm adding in my onion with some oil and the garlic, frying this up. Then I am adding in that cooked pumpkin and broccoli, continuing to fry this up, adding in some tinned brown lentils which have been drained and rinsed, followed by that cashew cream that I had made. Then I'm going to mix this all together and get it all nice and well combined before starting to assemble my lasagna. So my base layer is that lentil cashew cream sauce, then adding on some pasta sheets as well as the bechamel sauce, continuing to layer this with more pasta sheets, more lentil and cashew mixture, more bechamel sauce, and just keeping going until it gets seriously full. I'm putting on the bechamel sauce as the last layer, and then also topping it with some cashew parmesan on top. Putting this in the oven and letting it sizzle away and get all oozy and delicious, which we love to see. Then I served this with the green salad as well as some air fried potatoes. It was super delicious and such a wonderful end to the day. Hope you enjoyed watching what I ate in a day as a vegan and got some yummy meal ideas. Wow, you nailed that. Oh. Cheers, my baby.